watching Keepin' It Green. I'm your host, Debbie Klughers, and today I have with me two very special guests. I have Mr. Larry Penny, the East Hampton Natural Resource Director, and Mr. Bill Walsh, land surveyor. And we're going to be talking about Montauk, what's going on out there with the erosion and the storms and what's happened in the past and what you guys have planned for the future. So,
Right. Well, the most immediate problem is, but Bill has the whole history of Montauk in his head and also in charts.
Should write that down.
The original Montauk maps that were done beautifully, in the early 1900s. But the big thing now is Fort Pond, never been higher, and I think Billy can tell you how high it is and but what we want to do with it.
Okay.
There were several different elevation reference systems, and I have topographic maps that date to 1925 when it was undeveloped and still pasture land for East Hampton cattle herds. And at that time, the developer mapped all of Montauk in great detail using an instrument called a plane table, which would be sort of primitive by our standards, but it was very effective because it was measured. The maps were created in the field as they saw the land. Sure. And so the particular map that would show this area that we're concerned with now showed the original village of Montauk, which was where the railroad tracks are today, complete village, stores,
right.
houses, and
was
hotels.
It was the
hub of the whole town.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing at the present site of the
right.
village.
You can actually, because I dive, you can see the tracks that are in the water
Yes.
still, so it must have been much shallower
There
back
was
then.
a railroad dock. The railroad actually had a great influence on the fishing economy and brought fishermen. There was something called a fisherman's special to bring recreational fishermen, but they also shipped boxed commercial fishing from that site. And so one of the docks that went out into the bay has a remnant concrete structure that I measured, and I did some work at the town engineer's instructions on the Port Royal. It's a motel and condo complex now. I found original frame concrete structures from that railroad dock. When I was a young boy and we had friends, we used to play on the beach. There was a remnant of the original village, and there was old structures on the beach. There was actually a bar. It was weather-beaten boards and old neon signs and
wow.
little old men hanging out inside. And it was just an interesting place. Maybe you'd find a place like that in Alaska or Maine or like Homer, Alaska is a place that's supposed to be similar.
And when did that all change? When did that
changed
become abandoned?
There was a hurricane in 1954, Hurricane Carol, that finished off what the hurricane of 1938 did not destroy. It destroyed the last few houses and cottages that were still on that beach area. So the maps that I have from our 1925 show the village still there. And they have elevations on that lake surface that we could see as Fort Pond, but they were measured in a slightly different datum, different beginning point, different benchmark. So today we use the GPS system is very, very precise. It's a government modern datum height-wise and coordinate-wise, like latitude and longitude. So we're able to measure things very, very precisely and compare them. Larry and I together have worked on this project on the whole bluff line of Montauk, and this is the most recent one because of the series of storms this winter. But that bluff line we've seen is changing dramatically, and in some places, because we have precise air photographs, like this one, that has topography. It's the same one that has topography on top of it. But the air photography from 2004, and then the next set was in 2007, and one area of the county park, which is off the very east end of Montauk, I saw a 60-foot difference in the bluff line.
Wow.
That's the erosion in only 3.5 years.
In
that particular spot.
Wow.
That's not the erosion, the rate on, Larry could talk about
Not
the
the
bluff.
overall rate.
Right, the rate is much less.
But that area, because
Wow.
there's streams, 3 streams that feed into that and take the cliff top down with them, but it also faces directly into the direction the storms come from, into the northeast. So other areas of Montauk may take a glancing blow, and that takes a straight face-on blow from the serious storms. So that seemed to me to be the worst erosion rate.
Billy does it every few years, and he's able to, bluff. The Montauk Bluffs, by the way, are the only ocean bluffs on Long Island, and they're the only ocean bluffs until you get down to the Caribbean in those islands, because everything else is an outwash plain, and so bluffs that are Montauk pick up on Block Island, on Maine, a little bit of New Hampshire where it touches the water, and in Canada.
This is a very unique ecosystem and a unique place, and
because of the structure of the soil, it's not just the sand; it's clay and glacial till and sand all mixed in. But the clay traps the water, and as Larry could tell you, that the most continuous form of erosion is from groundwater. So we could see a dramatic loss of a particular storm. But the day-to-day drainage of water that runs on the clay surface at maybe tens of feet down is continuous. As it weeps out onto the surface of the cliff, it takes the soil with it. So the looser soil, it may be up above it, and the clay below it is like a pavement, and the looser soil goes with the.
So what is there to
So
do
then
with
when
it?
the storm comes, there's big
Is there anything to do to slow this down or prepare for another storm? Is there anything that
There
you're
is,
thinking of
actually.
doing?
Well, there are a couple of things to do. First, you have the water. And Billy, Fort Pond, this is about the highest you've ever seen it, right?
It is, absolutely.
When you go back to all
pictures
your old
of that.
maps.
And this photograph that we just got from the town engineer, these photographs all show the railroad yards, and one of them inside shows the water at least a foot deep on Industrial Road, which is this little roadway between Fort Pond Bay and Fort Pond. You'll see the railroad, and then there's one road called Industrial Road, and that's the one. The next one, actually, Debbie, is even more dramatic, I think. Yes. That is about a foot of water. If, maybe we
These
could...
pictures were taken by Tom Towns.
Tom, the engineer, and perhaps we could...
These were taken about a month ago.
That's right.
How's it looking now? Is it all...
It's receded and drivable now.
Okay.
But that particular photograph, you could see the power structure there,
over
the
here.
power plant.
Right.
So it would be, here's the power plant, and that photograph would be looking west in this vicinity. So it's the area between this small pond and the larger pond where the water flowed across and was impassable to my car. Maybe large trucks went through it, but it was at least a foot deep. As you can see, the center of the road is always higher than the edge. But even at the center, it could have been a foot deep. In my time in Montauk, I've never seen that at all. I've never seen it cross.
He called me up and told me there were waves going across Industrial Road.
Wow.
You know?
Right. And some contractors said...
that's fresh water.
They're both fresh water.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So that storm in 1954 that ruined the rest of the village, of course, salt water from the bay. So sometimes, I'm sure in other earlier periods of history, that the pond has had saltwater intrusions from storms.
Now, one of the things we want to do here, Deborah, you asked about can things be done. It's going to be hard to stop the erosion on the bluffs without some kind of toe protection. The bluff has a top, a crest, and it has a bottom where it meets the beach called the toe. And the waves hit this toe. Also, the water comes over the top and through the side, the face of the bluff, and washes down. So it's a double entendre, actually, working. but one thing we can do, this is actually the water table,